Okay, 3 engineering students were gathered together discussing the possible designers of the human body. One said it was a mechanical engineer, just look at all the joints. Another said, no, it was an electrical engineer. The nervous system has many thousands of electrical connections. The last said, actually, it was a civil engineer. Who else would run a toxic waste pipeline through a recreational area?
Kinky joke. Okay. Hey, Wolfi. And viewers, hello everybody, and welcome to number 8 of our videocast series. This is Wolfi. I'm Elad. We are both certified LeSS trainers. And today, before we really deep dive into the topic, I really want to thank everybody who's been watching us and commenting and making suggestions and reaching out. It's really warming our hearts. We are touched by your comments. The format is, if you don't know it yet, 2 questions, 5 minutes each, and when time is up, the time is up, because that's what time boxes do. And today's topic is release planning.
Okay, what is release planning? Well, let's look at Wikipedia. Release planning is a part of release management, and release management is defined as the process of managing, planning, scheduling, and controlling a software build through different stages and environments, including testing and deploying software releases. Well, now in LeSS, it is so the only place in LeSS where you can find actually something implicitly about release planning is queuing theory. Because release planning, as any other planning activities, are regarded as transaction costs. Transaction costs are the extra you pay when you purchase some goods with your credit card very often. And as such, LeSS tries to minimize the waste like transaction costs, and therefore avoid such activities like release planning entirely.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So that's release planning, viewers. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can I start?
You can start.
I'm going to start a timer also very soon. So, Wolfi, can you tell me about a time when you used release planning in your career as a program manager or anything else? And was it valuable? That's the first part. The second part of the question, would you do it again? And the third part is, if you would do it again, what would you do differently? Or if you wouldn't do it again, what would you do instead? It's a long question. Cool.
Yeah, so many questions. So first of all, something emotional. I love planning. It's really fun. It gives me joy. And very important is to notice that sometimes it's required to have a plan. And then if you love planning, like I do, then basically you are also able to throw your plan into garbage the minute you create it, because you have learned something new, it affected your plan, and you know that your plan is already outdated. And I really learned this a lot during my 3 years traveling around the world on a motorbike. So that has happened in many, many occasions, but there sometimes it was really required to have a plan. Well, then coming back to the professional life. So I did release planning many, many years ago when I was a program manager. I was responsible for the development of new products in Nokia networks. And
I remember that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think it was a value to the organization. It aligned between R&D, production, operations, logistics, marketing. So, we had to ramp up the production line there also, and all these different things. So it was a way basically to help communicating within this development organization. And then it was so that we had also other products and they work together with each other. So that here, I think the release plan, what we created, it actually helped the communication between the different products, especially in terms of marketing and sales activities. So I think that is where really the value was coming from a lot. And well, if you do release planning, it's actually quite important to me to follow the principles and the ideas of the agile planning onion. So this means in rough terms, what does it onion mean? The deeper you go, the more detailed you plan, also the shorter the time span is you are planning. So if you, for example, compare release planning, so you are like, I say on PowerPoint granularity, so not even MS Project, that's far too detailed, but like PowerPoint granularity, you look at the entire release, look at the entire organization, compare this to a daily. So there you have task level, you have only one day, basically you have one team. So that I think are the essentials of the release planning or the planning onion in Agile. And here basically you need to be careful that you don't go too much into detail in release planning, of course. And now, why might release planning be helpful, useful in this? Well, the thing is this, that most organizations I have seen, they don't have a perfect definition of done. And we had some earlier video in this, so we can refer to this here. But this also means that in each sprint, the team produce a pile of work, the undone work, how we call this in LeSS, which needs to be done before you can release a product increment to the market. Those are maybe stability tests, customer documentation, stuff like this. So now, independent of who coordinates the work, there might be a need for having these planning activities or the planning of those activities to create some alignment. You might need to get lab resources reserved in advance. You might need to get equipment purchased or whatever for some of the activities. And that's why you need to have a continuous release planning activity in place that would help you to create this transparency so that the product owner would actually know, okay, now I have the capability to ship the product increment to the market. So that's basically where I can see the value added. And so basically in LeSS, if you adopt LeSS, my advice to you would be that eliminate the root causes, and then you can also get rid of release planning. So I hope this answered your questions. Oh no, I think, what would I do differently? And if not, would you do instead? Well, like I said, so I think if you can work on the root causes, then you can eliminate the concept of release planning, and especially we have seen in some other ideologies this kind of like harmful way where you go too detailed. So that's why you need to be careful of. Don't go too detailed, stay on a higher level, and I think it might be then helpful for you. Okay, Elad, can you elaborate what you think why LeSS does not say anything specific about release planning? In other words, what are the prerequisites which need to be in place so that release planning is off the table?
Okay, I don't think I can elaborate. Okay, so I'm going to say, because I have 5 minutes, Wolfi. So, but I will address your question. I think LeSS is a lean framework, right? And one of the principles is about lean, the lean concepts and lean idea and lean culture. And one of our principles is more with less, right? Which makes us very selective regarding what do we put in the framework and what do we leave out of the framework. Now, since release planning is definitely not a part of what I would say the minimal set of rules that are required for an organization to succeed, right? I don't think it's there at the building blocks. So LeSS accordingly doesn't say anything about it, right? because we try to keep it to the minimal prescription possible. So in addition to that, I want to talk about my personal experience with an opinion with regards to release planning. So, or any form of long planning in general. I view it as a waste of time, and it often produces zero to very little value that doesn't really justify the investment, right? And trying to create this fake forecast in a domain that is by definition unpredictable. Software is unpredictable, so trying to be predictable in an unpredictable domain only makes the problem more painful, right? Because you're not even facing reality. Now, I know that and I meet people and managers and customers, and I discuss the concept of release planning, especially product managers and executive managers, and I try to have a conversation with them about what kind of value do you expect to extract from performing release planning or investing in release planning. So I think you've probably heard that as well. I get those classic answers like, this helps us create some kind of expectation matching with the customers or with the markets. And you're smiling, yes. Another one is like, we use it to align R&D for organizational goals. You even, I think, mentioned that from your experience. Another common reason is that it helps detect dependencies or deal with dependencies management or potential problems in the future. Now, I'm not saying that those are invalid reasons. So trying to create expectations or to match expectations with the customers and market is sometimes important in some domains. In some domains, not so much. Aligning the organization around the goals, the short-term and long-term goals, is a very important aspect, I think, in an organization to succeed. The focus factor of an organization, WIP limits, stuff like that. And again, the third one is also talking about dependencies or talking about potential integrations is important, right? Mm. The thing is that those using release planning as a solution to the stuff that I mentioned is a local optimization easily. It's a quick fix to try and solve a systemic problem, and this need to do expectation matching with the customers are basically failing to see that this whole contract game is flawed, right? Just stop that. It leads to suboptimal results at best. Try to replace that with just involve the customer in the planning, expose their plan, make it transparent, let the customers make their own decisions based on what data you really have and not on some fake contract. The second thing is to align organizational goals. So I'll be short, just give me a break. You want to align the R&D, release planning is definitely not the solution. It is important, but just you're barking up the wrong tree. And the third one is, if you want to detect dependencies, it is more likely than not the organizational design problem and the late integration that actually creates the need to, I'm going to respect the time box. Yes. So insights, right?
You with this fake forecast, and I think that is the big flaw what people might do, that they plan far too detailed in order to get a better predictability, and that's just like not going to work out. So I think that is there. Yeah, for the expectation matching, to me, the release plan is something. Then, so if I look at this, what you said before, and with the forecast, then it would be too detailed for this actually. So what I would call this would be more a product roadmap, like which feature elements, which themes are coming when. I have two interesting parts though. The first thing is that now with the new Scrum Guide, where we have a product goal, is that actually the same thing as a release goal? If you think that you make only one product once and then it's done, is then the product goal the same as a release goal? And then if this is so, how is this, for example, aligned to specification by example, where it's actually desired to have a goal and to work towards the goal? The whole concept of planning is, to me, in the Agile community, really like a bad thing, like you don't want to plan, and it's even stated, so you don't want to have a contract and stuff like this. You don't want to have a plan. But then the act of planning is something what we do every day, but we might not call it planning. I mean, each of the trainers are planning every day, basically. But the thing is this, that you need to do just enough that it's fit for purpose. And I think that's the problem very often, that it doesn't do that. It goes far beyond this. Okay, so do you have any insights to what I have said?
First of all, I liked your answer a lot. That's a good insight. But there's one thing that really got me thinking. You talked about release planning in the context of undone work.
Yes.
So sometimes the definition of done is really not done, and then we have at the end of every iteration undone items who still needs to be, like you said. Customer documentation is an easy one, but something like performance testing, load testing, often things that will result in the product going back to the R&D. And I think that's an aspect of release planning in the term of releasing, like actually planning what needs to be done to release the product to the marketplace, and not what I had in mind as the contract kind of release planning. So I think that's maybe interesting to look deeper into that and re-ask what could be release planning, even though terminology-wise, I'm assuming release planning is already taken. It has a very specific context. So, yeah. But I think that's a very interesting aspect of release planning. And I think I almost never actually encountered the discussion about those things in release planning that I've been a part of, or have attended, or observed, or whatever.
Yes.
Also, like talking about your insight, just one last comment. And you said that we as trainers and as coaches, we are doing planning every day. I think that on top of what you said, yes, and our domain is much more predictable. We can plan for 3 months in advance because we need to book hotels and training rooms and flights and so on. But we know that the date is fixed unless the chances of it changing are really low. So relatively to the rate of change in the software. Awesome.
Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope Elad and me, we hope that you have found this video valuable, and invite you to post any comments or questions you might have, or even just topics for the future episodes. And this is the last video for this year, so we wish you all Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas
time, or whatever you call it.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, we don't care. Yeah, so have fun, take it easy, relax, and have a few peaceful weeks then. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.